Ever feel like your website is kind of lost, in a sea of content, like you're shouting into the void and no one's hearing you?
Happens to the best of us.
Trust me, you're not alone. Getting your website noticed by Google, it's a challenge. But understanding how Google finds and ranks websites, well, that can change the entire game.
It really can.
And that's what we're diving into today. It's a fascinating world
It is.
of crawling and indexing.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we've got an expert here to break it down so you can actually use this knowledge to boost your website's visibility.
That's right. It's all about working with Google, not against it.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. How does Google even find your website in the first place? I mean, the internet is huge GE.
Right. Think of Google as this massive library constantly trying to catalog every new book. But instead of librarians, they have this tireless digital explorer called Googlebot. It's their web crawler. It scours the internet, following links from one page to another, discovering new content, and revisiting old favorites.
So it's like a digital detective.
Yeah.
Sniffing out clues and following trails of links.
Exactly. And each time it finds a new page, it downloads a copy of the content, kind of like, saving a file to your computer.
So it's not just looking at the page, it's making a copy of the entire thing.
Right. And it's not just about grabbing the raw data. It actually renders the page, which means it processes all the code, including JavaScript, to see how the page looks and functions just like you would see it in a browser. This is crucial because a lot of modern websites use JavaScript to load dynamic content and create interactive elements.
Wow. So Googlebot is basically browsing the web, experiencing each page just like a human visitor would.
Pretty much. And here's where it gets interesting. Googlebot doesn't crawl everything.
Wait, really? I thought Google's mission was to organize all the world's information.
That's the goal. But there are some exceptions. For instance, Googlebot generally avoids crawling pages behind logins because they're not publicly accessible. It also won't crawl pages that are clearly marked as noindex. Those are pages that website owners don't want Google to include in its search results.
So you're saying I can actually tell Google not to index certain pages on my website?
Exactly. It's all about having control over how Google interacts with your content.
Okay, that's good to know. But back to the crawling process. How often does Googlebot visit a website? Does it just pop in whenever it feels like it?
Not exactly. It tries to be a good guest and avoid overwhelming your server with too many requests.
Okay.
The frequency of crawling depends on a few things: the website's popularity, how often the content is updated, and even the overall health and performance of the server.
So if my website is constantly being updated with fresh, engaging content, Googlebot is more likely to visit more often.
That's right. Googlebot loves fresh content. And here's another tip. You can actually help Googlebot navigate your website more efficiently by creating a sitemap. Think of it as a roadmap that guides Googlebot through all the important pages on your site, ensuring it doesn't miss anything crucial.
A roadmap for Googlebot. Interesting. So it's like making a table of contents for my entire website.
Exactly. And you can even provide Google with additional metadata about each page in the sitemap. Things like when the page was last updated, how often it's changed, and even the relative importance of the page compared to other pages on your site.
So it's like giving Google a little cheat sheet to help them understand my website better.
Exactly. And the more information you provide, the easier it is for Google to understand the structure and content of your website, which can ultimately lead to better visibility in search results.
Okay, so we've got this digital explorer, Googlebot, crawling through the web, downloading pages, rendering them, and using sitemaps as guides. It's already making my website feel less like a random collection of pages and more like a structured, accessible space.
And that's exactly the point. Now that Googlebot has found your website and downloaded its content, let's talk about what happens next. The fascinating process of indexing. Indexing is where Google really starts to make sense of your website. Imagine it like this: you've got a box full of puzzle pieces.
Okay.
And indexing is the process of sorting those pieces, figuring out what the picture is, and then labeling the box so you can easily find it later.
Okay, that's a great analogy. So Google is basically taking all the raw data from my website and trying to figure out what it's all about.
Exactly. It analyzes the text, the images, the videos, even the code itself.
Wow.
To determine what each page is about, how it relates to other pages,
Okay.
and how valuable it might be to someone searching for specific information.
So if I have a page about, say, the best chocolate chip cookie recipe, Google will actually read through the recipe, look at the pictures, and try to understand what makes my recipe unique.
That's right. It's looking for keywords and phrases that people might use to search for that type of content, like chocolate chip cookies, best recipe, easy baking, and so on.
Right.
It also analyzes the structure of the content, how you use headings, subheadings, lists, and other formatting elements to organize the information.
So it's not just about the words themselves. It's about how I structure and present the information.
Exactly. And here's something you might find surprising. Google even checks to make sure your HTML code is semantically correct.
Wait, so Google's basically grading my code? I never thought about it that way.
Well, not exactly grading, but it's definitely checking to see if you're using the right HTML tags and elements to convey the meaning of your content accurately.
Okay.
For example, using heading tags, H1, H2, etc., appropriately helps Google understand the hierarchy of information on your page, which can improve its ranking for relevant search queries.
So good code structure can actually help my website rank higher in search results.
Absolutely. It's all about making it easy for Google to understand and categorize your content.
Okay, so Google has crawled my site, indexed my content, and hopefully given my code a passing grade. But how does it actually decide which websites to show at the top of the search results? I mean, there are probably millions of websites about chocolate chip cookies out there.
That's where things get really interesting. We're talking about ranking algorithms.
Okay.
These are complex formulas that Google uses to determine the order of search results based on hundreds of different factors.
Hundreds. Wow, that's a lot to keep track of.
It is. But the good news is that we don't have to understand every single factor.
Okay.
The core principles are pretty straightforward:
Okay.
relevance, authority, and user experience.
Okay, let's break those down.
Yeah.
Relevance seems pretty obvious. Google wants to show results that are actually related to what people are searching for.
Exactly. If someone searches for a best chocolate chip cookie recipe, Google wants to make sure the top results are actually about chocolate chip cookie recipes, not something completely unrelated.
Makes sense. But what about authority? How does Google decide which websites are more trustworthy or authoritative than others?
Think of it like this. If you're looking for advice on baking, would you trust a random blog post or a website from a renowned pastry chef?
Probably the pastry chef. They have more experience and expertise.
Exactly. Google uses similar logic. It looks at factors like the number and quality of backlinks pointing to your website.
Backlinks. Those are links from other websites to my website, right?
Right. Imagine them as votes of confidence. If a lot of reputable websites are linking to your website, it tells Google that your content is valuable and trustworthy.
So the more backlinks I have, the better.
Not necessarily. It's about quality over quantity.
Okay.
A backlink from a high-authority website in your industry is worth far more than a bunch of links from random, low-quality websites.
So it's about building genuine relationships with other websites, not just trying to collect as many links as possible.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. You can actually improve your website's authority by guest posting on reputable sites in your industry. It's like getting a referral from a trusted source.
Okay, so relevance and authority, check and check. What about user experience?
Google wants to make sure that people have a positive experience when they click on a search result. It doesn't want to send people to websites that are slow to load, confusing to navigate, or filled with annoying pop-ups.
So it's not just about the content itself. It's about the overall experience of visiting my website.
Exactly. Google tracks things like page load speed,
Uh-huh.
mobile friendliness, and even how long people stay on your page after clicking on a search result. If people are bouncing off your site quickly,
Yeah.
it could be a sign that something is wrong.
Okay, that makes sense. I've definitely been on websites that were so slow or confusing that I just gave up and went back to the search results.
And Google knows that. It wants to keep people within its ecosystem.
Right.
So it prioritizes websites that provide a smooth and enjoyable user experience.
So what are some things I can do to improve the user experience on my website?
There are a lot of things you can do, but some of the most important include: make sure your website loads quickly. No one wants to wait around for a slow website to load. Optimize your website for mobile devices. More and more people are browsing the web on their phones, so it's crucial that your website looks good and functions properly on smaller screens. Make sure your website is easy to navigate. Use clear and concise menus. Make sure your pages are well organized. And avoid using too many distracting elements.
Okay, so speed, mobile friendliness, and clear navigation, got it. It's starting to feel less overwhelming now that we're breaking it down into manageable steps.
And that's the key. Taking it one step at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a high-ranking website.
So we've covered relevance, authority, and user experience. Are there any other major ranking factors we should be aware of?
There are hundreds, but some of the most important include content quality, keyword optimization, and technical SEO.
content quality that seems pretty straightforward. Google wants to see websites with well-written, informative, and engaging content.
Exactly. It's not just about stuffing your pages with keywords anymore. Google's algorithms are smart enough to recognize when content is thin, repetitive, or poorly written.
Yeah.
It wants to see content that provides real value to readers.
So it's about writing for humans,
Mm-hmm.
not just for search engines.
Exactly. And while keyword optimization is still important, it's not about cramming keywords in wherever you can. It's about understanding what your target audience is searching for and using those keywords naturally and strategically throughout your content.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about technical SEO? What does that entail?
Technical SEO is all about making sure your website is crawlable,
Okay.
indexable, and technically sound. It includes things like optimizing your website structure, making sure your pages are properly linked, submitting your sitemap to Google, and fixing any technical errors that might be preventing Google from accessing your content.
So it's like the behind-the-scenes work that keeps everything running smoothly.
Exactly. It's the foundation upon which all your other SEO efforts are built.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from crawling and indexing to ranking algorithms and the importance of user experience. It's a lot to take in, but I'm already starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
And that's the beauty of it. Once you understand how Google works, you can start to see your website from a whole new perspective. You can start to make strategic decisions about your content, your design, and your overall online presence to align with Google's goals.
So it's about working with Google, not against it.
Exactly. It's about creating a website that is both valuable to your audience and easily discoverable and understood by Google.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm feeling inspired to go back and take a closer look at my own website, armed with all this newfound knowledge.
That's fantastic to hear. And remember, the world of SEO is constantly evolving, so it's important to stay curious, keep learning, and never be afraid to experiment.
Absolutely. It's a journey, not a destination.
Well said. Before we wrap things up, let me leave you with this thought. Imagine you're a Google bot for a day. What would you look for on your website? What would make it stand out in the crowd and signal, hey, this website deserves a top spot?
Ooh, I like that. It's a total perspective shift. It's not just about what I think is important. It's about what Googlebot and ultimately my potential audience is looking for.
Precisely. So think about it. Are your most important pages easy to find? Is your content well-written, informative, and engaging? Does your website load quickly and look good on all devices?
Yeah, you're making me want to run an audit on my site right now. I'm starting to see things I never noticed before.
Especially now that I understand how Google analyzes and evaluates websites.
And that's the power of knowledge. It allows you to make informed decisions and take control of your online presence.
It's like I've been wandering around in the dark, and now someone's finally switched on the light.
Exactly. And remember, SEO is an ongoing process. Google is constantly updating its algorithms, so it's crucial to stay informed and adapt your strategies accordingly. So it's not a one-and-done kind of thing. I can't just optimize my website once and call it a day.
Unfortunately not. But think of it as an opportunity for continuous improvement. As you learn more about SEO and experiment with different strategies, you'll gain valuable insights into what works best for your website and your audience.
Okay, I can get behind that. It's like tending a garden. You have to nurture it, prune it, and adjust your approach based on the changing seasons.
That's a great analogy. It's about being proactive, staying curious, and never being afraid to try new things.
This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to a whole new world of possibilities. I'm feeling inspired to go back and revamp my website, armed with all this newfound knowledge.
That's what we like to hear. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference. You don't have to overhaul your entire website overnight. Start by focusing on one or two key areas and see how those changes impact your search rankings.
Okay, that's good advice. It's about making incremental progress, not getting overwhelmed by the enormity of it all.
Exactly. And remember, we're here to help. We'll include some helpful resources in the show notes, links to tools, articles, and communities that can provide guidance and support as you embark on your SEO journey.
Perfect. I'm sure our listeners will appreciate that. Well, that brings us to the end of another deep dive. I hope you found this exploration of Google search as enlightening as I did. It's amazing to see how much complexity and ingenuity goes into something we use every single day.
It's been a pleasure joining you on this journey. And remember, the world of SEO is constantly evolving, so stay curious, keep learning, and never stop experimenting. Who knows, maybe one day your website will be at the top of those Google search results.
That's the dream. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that insatiable curiosity burning bright.